is another part to my assembling the cards lesson and finishing up your cards and polishing up your cards. I wanted to kind of save this panel back because there's a couple things that I could change a little bit. Um, we stamped, we embossed, we put color on. Now what I want to do is I see that there's still some brush on the stars that I don't really want. I want the stars to be even wider. And you probably, let's see if I can't. I just got my rag a little bit wet, but you can kind of see that there's some brush on the stars, and it's not terrible. You're probably going to be the only one that will see it, but I want it to be completely white, not kind of white. So I'm just cleaning up the brush out. Sometimes the resist on the embossing powder um, will just stay on the embossing powder because we put too much ink on, which is fine. I can clean that up really easy. All I'm doing is I got my rag wet and it's already looking pretty black because there's a lot of pigment right there. Um, but here's a cleaner side to it, right? And I am just gently, very, very, very gently kind of going over it because I don't want the brush on. I don't want any pigment on the white. I want the white to stay white. There, I really like that. Now, when I was conceptualizing this card, I thought a starry background stamp will be perfect. And then what am I going to do with it? How am I like? What do I want to say with the stars? What kind of emotion do stars give off? And um, when I think of stars, I think of instantly Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which then brings in my mind to babies. And so, in my mind's eye, this is a graduate, uh, like a graduation set of sentiments. But I do love this one. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I always think of babies and spring when I think of that sentiment. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to stamp that sentiment right here. And it's a big one, so it will fill most of the most of it. And I cut this down to the size of the sentiment. I don't usually measure my sentiments. I just make sure that they stay within, like I know that this will fit, right? So if I were to measure it, it would be about, oh, 3/4 of an, nope. Um, oh, that's a bad example. Sorry. Yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch long. And then the length of the card, which is for this one, the card panel is 4. So that's that's the length of it, but I don't ever measure because who has time to measure when you can just make it? And um, I'm not the only artist that does that. I actually learned that trick 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 from a wonderful scrapbooker that had her own TV show years ago, and she's like, I just don't measure. I just don't. I don't think you have to measure to get a right to get to to collage, and that's really what we're doing is collaging, right? At this point, we have our elements. Now we're just collaging. All right. So with sentiment, you can see my sentiment. It's I want to make sure that my sentiment is straight. So I'll use the guides on my Misty to make sure. And I know you see that big circle of my light. Um, yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so now I can ink my sentiment and stamp it and be on my way. And I really think that this is going to look beautiful for a baby card, for a welcome baby card. And I like sentiment steps that you can do a bunch of different things with. So I use the Voyage for the seascape beach scene card, and now I'm using this one for a baby card, and this is a like a graduation sentiment. So I love those open-ended sentiments all those wonderful things. And you could have used this one for a graduation sentiment too, but why not use it for a baby? I suppose if you left it open, you could. All right. And now all I have to do is pop this up a little bit, and I have a really nice little card to give to a to a mother who's expecting a baby. And isn't that beautiful? I think that will make for a really pretty card. So, um, yeah, there's that one. Let's move on to a different one. I wanted to share with you. I'm not going to do all of those cards that all the card panels, because that would probably bore you to tears. But I will at the end of this at the end of this assembly the card lesson is I will do a voiceover of all the different cards I've created and where the card panel came from, so you have a reference for that. Okay. Remember that card panel with the background and the stamp, and I glazed over the stars? Didn't that turn out beautiful? I wanted to use one of these because it does look very kid-like, and I'm going to actually have this going down like this. And I chose um, it takes someone special to teach someone special. And I figured that would be a nice one to give to a teacher, especially my son's teacher. My son has apraxia, which is a speech. It's hard for him to talk. And so, because it's hard for him to talk, he has fine motor planning, um, like a deficit in that. And so he's not in special ed, but his amazing kindergarten teacher, she is amazing, um, has really helped him grow and become awesome. So she deserves at least one handmade card from me, probably more. But when anyways, I love when a background stamp and a sentiment stamp work really well together. And I think the stars can go for so many different ways. You can make a star background into like a baby card or a graduation card or a teacher card. I mean, thank you card. It's endless. I love symbols that mean more than one thing. Okay. And because I did not, you guys, I was talking and not talking. See how this is like crooked? I'm going to re-stamp that in the right and position my sentiments so it is not going downhill. Sometimes that happens, and I just forgot to. So I'm looking at this line and this line, and I'm seeing that it is straight. So now it's straight. It just the way it was cut is um, like just fine. It's just when I saw it, I thought it went the other way, and I didn't look to see if it was going downhill or not. So, um, good thing we're using good cardstock, and we can flip it over and start over again. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a ducktail and make it into a banner without using a die. And so then it will look it'll be a nice simple little card to send to his teacher. And we'll see, I might embellish it a little bit more, but I really like this the way it is like that. And again, we'll cut it down a little bit more, but there's that one done. So what I like to do is I like to make my background, make my card panel with brushes. Then I go and I look and see, okay, how do I want to design this card panel? If I don't have something in mind, usually I have something in mind, but when I don't have something in mind and I'm just making card panels, I'll look at my sentiments, see which sentiments I like, and then just add the sentiments to the card, either with cardstock and I'm stamping the image onto the cardstock, or I'm stamping it like what we did here onto the card. If I left what I would call negative space, like this is negative space because I can do something else with this space, which I did. I stamped the thinking about you into it. So, um, you know, it takes time, it takes practice to know kind of what you like, um, what kind of cards you need. Maybe you need more, I don't know, wedding cards. Then I would do more florals and get like a congratulations card or whatever. It doesn't matter, but yeah. Okay, so moving on. This is my last one for this segment, and then we'll move on to something else. All right. I cut my card panel, you guys. Let me show you what I did. Um, this is the bottom, this is the top, or the middle, and this is the so there was that card panel that I did, and it was glazed. Remember how I glazed the bottom of this and this and this, and I kept going back and forth. Do I want to cut this? What do I want to do with this card panel? And I finally thought, you know what I need to do? I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut it into thirds because I really like this space a lot. And I really like this space a lot, but I don't think I need all of the space. So I cut them into thirds. Again, I didn't measure. I just cut kind of where I thought the butterflies would make for a nice break. And then I'm going to take this one away. I'll use that for a different card. So I'm not going to just toss it out. And then this is just a fun little way to add a little bit more. You can see kind of where I'm going with this before I glue everything down so you can see how the card panel is. So I have this in a black mat, right? Now I have space right here to add a nice sentiment, and I will stamp this white sentiment right here, and you have a beautiful designer look card that really didn't take you very long. And I'm going to use the congratulations on your retirement. It's from the Friendly Phrases stamp set from Tailored Expressions. And yeah, right there is the sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that, and I'm going to stamp this dead center. So I got to use my Misty to position it to be right in the center, and I'll show you how I do that. So I'll put my paper back down here, and then with my fingers, because my fingers are my best guide and my eyes, and you know, people aren't going to look and say, oh my gosh, it's so off-centered by an eighth of an inch. I don't, you know, your eye and your brain isn't that good unless you've, most people will not think that. So I feel like my fingers are my best. Now, if I was trying to do the whole like 5.5, then I would probably use 2 fingers and see, you know, but my fingers are pretty close together. So when yeah, that looks really centered. Now I can push my stamp up, and I can say, oh, that is um, right on the line. That looks like it's right on the line. That one does. Needs to go up just a tad. Okay, that looks good. And you do have to play around with it. That's why I like to make, like if I made 5 of these butterfly panels, then I would make 5 of these panels and just start cutting. And then I have maybe 5 of these, but with different sentiments. Maybe I wanted happy anniversary. Maybe I wanted best wishes to the happy couple, hello friend. And I could have a set of 5, or I don't know, however many sentiments you want for a card, for cards. And that would be a really fun thing to do. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions on what I just said, please let me know. Basically, you would be making this card 5 times with different sentiments, and then give it as a gift as a set. And so each card, even though they look the same, they have a different sentiment. Yeah. Okay. Let's ink this up and go. And I'm really anxious to. Um, yeah. Now I am using cardstock, so it's easier and crisper. But there you go. There's my card panel, and then what I'll do is just glue it on, and I got a very nice now all I have to do is glue. But because I'm in the production stage, I'm not in the finishing stage of my cards. I'm not going to take the time to get my glue out right now and glue that because I find that it's easier to just do all of it at once. But there's this card panel and it's going to look phenomenal when it's done. Isn't that beautiful? And you really didn't spend a lot of time making this card. So we'll put that back. All right. And that is it. So let me show you again what we're gonna do. There's this one, and this one that we just finished up. And um, yeah, when we get to the gluing part and the assembling part, the actual making it into one card, which is 2 lessons away. Um, I will show you how I make the ducktail, and we might even have to cut this off a little bit because it's a little longer than I wanted it to be. But um, it's all looking really good. I don't know if you have a favorite. If you do, I'd love to see it. But um, those are the 3 different types of ways I like to use background stamps for cards. Um, yeah, it's a fun time, and it takes it's like putting a puzzle piece together and finding what works and what you want to do with it. And the more practice you use, the better. There's no right or wrong way. I like to think of this process as the collage process, where I'm using the sentiments that I own and I'm making it work for me, for my family, for the cards that I'm going to give away. So, yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.